Hey, I get it. Standing in front of the computer aisle or scrolling endless listings online, you start wondering if you're about to waste money on a machine that looks great on paper but ends up sitting idle most of the time. That nervous feeling of what if it can't actually run the games I love, or what if I'm stuck with a box I can't upgrade later, is exactly why I wanted to break down the Skytech gaming Archangel for you before you click Add to Cart. Link is in the description if you want to check the product details on Amazon. First off, the Archangel sits in the sweet spot of pre-built gaming rigs that promise decent performance without the hassle of hand-picking each component. It's built around an AMD Ryzen 5 5500 processor, 6 cores, 12 threads, base clock of 3.6 GHz that can boost up to 4.2 GHz when the workload demands it. Pair that with an NVIDIA RTX 3050 with 6 GB of GDDR4 memory, and you've got a combo that, on paper, should handle modern titles at 1080p with respectable frame rates. Add a 1TB NVMe SSD and 16 GB of DDR4 3200 RAM, and the system is ready to load games in a flash and keep multiple applications running without choking. Now, let's move beyond the spec sheet. What does this actually feel like when you fire it up for a night of gaming? I've been testing it with a mix of fast-paced shooters, open-world adventures, and a few streaming sessions. In Fortnite on epic settings, the Archangel consistently delivered well over 100 frames per second, which means you can push the monitor refresh rate and still have headroom for smooth play. When I dropped the graphics down to high in Cyberpunk 2077 at 1080p, the frame count hovered around 5,560 frames per second. Not buttery smooth, but definitely playable without the stutter you'd get on an older mid-range card. The RTX 3050 also gave me the benefit of DLSS, which helped bump those numbers a bit higher without sacrificing visual fidelity. If you're the type who likes to stream while you game, the 16 GB of RAM and the Ryzen 5's extra cores make multitasking less of a headache. I ran OBS in the background, captured the feed, and still kept the game above 60 frames per second in Valorant. The 1TB NVMe drive shaved off load times dramatically. Assassin's Creed Valhalla loaded its world in under 30 seconds, compared to the 2-minute waits you might see on a traditional SATA drive. So, who should consider buying this machine? If you're a casual to mid-range gamer who primarily plays at 1080p, want a system that works out of the box, and don't want to spend a weekend digging through forums to assemble a PC, the Archangel is a solid choice. It also works well for students or creators who need a decent amount of horsepower for video editing or 3D modeling on a budget. Those apps love the combination of a decent CPU and fast SSD. The Wi-Fi AC module means you can set it up in a dorm room or a living room without needing a separate Ethernet cable, which is a nice convenience for many. On the flip side, there are scenarios where you might want to look elsewhere. If you're an enthusiast chasing 1440p or 4K gaming with ultra settings, the RTX 3050 will start to feel limiting. Games like Red Dead Redemption 2 or Elden Ring at higher resolutions will dip below 45 frames per second even when you dial settings down, and you'll quickly run into the GPU ceiling. Likewise, if you have a habit of swapping out parts every couple of years, the Archangel's case isn't the most spacious for massive GPU upgrades or multiple storage drives. The power supply is a 650W gold unit, plenty for the stock components, but it doesn't leave a huge headroom for a future RTX 3070 or larger liquid cooling loops without a potential upgrade. Another subtle trade-off is the brand may vary note on the graphics card. In practice, Skytech sources the RTX 3050 from different OEM partners, which means the cooling solution and factory overclock can differ slightly between units. Most of the time you'll get a perfectly fine card, but if you're picky about brand consistency, it's something to keep in mind. Let's talk about the day-to-day experience beyond gaming. The high-performance air cooler that comes pre-installed does a decent job keeping the CPU temperatures under 70°C during extended play sessions. It's not a whisper-quiet fan, but it's far from a hair-raising roar, which is a relief if you're gaming late at night. The system arrives fully assembled, With Windows 11 installed and no extra junkware cluttering up the drive, a small but appreciated detail for anyone who hates wiping out pre-installed trial software. One practical strength that often gets overlooked is the connectivity options. Besides Wi-Fi, you get a solid suite of ports, a USB-C, multiple USB-A, HDMI, and a DisplayPort. That means you can hook up a dual monitor setup without hunting for adapters, and you won't be stuck using a single cable for everything. I've used the HDMI to drive a 144Hz TV and the DisplayPort for a 1080p monitor simultaneously, swapping between them without any hiccups. In terms of value, the Archangel's price point lands